Then they faced DePaul, a little bit more of a challenge. And then last week, they went 1-1 against Siena. And Siena, who on the other stream just took 2 maps off of Marist. So the standings have changed a lot in that kind of lower and mid-tier standings. So now it's really up to, the University of South Alabama to cement their position as one of the contenders as we get later into this season.
Well, it will be Colorado on the defense here, but Tiny T, my boy, already moving up and getting aggressive, getting into a bit of a scuffle right now with RC, taking some serious damage and had the perfect opportunity to light those players up as they were getting the plant down, but it's going to be Pelusia will move XPoth with that nade. Lucia jumping up again over on Tetris will be helped with Aratoshi and trying to get that plant down. It will be done, but Tiny T, last one alive, will go down to Aratoshi. Bomb does go down, they get the money, but not much else.
A lot of chaos in that round, but I do appreciate the aggression immediately from South Alabama coming in, trying to make something happen. Unfortunately, they lost the bomb carrier in those earlier seconds of the round. So even though they went for that early defuse, they weren't able to get it. And I think that led to some confusion. We saw on the site quite a few of them clumped up around where that bomb was. So I think with that situation, it kind of went in a negative mental direction, but it did kind of give a sense that there is an opportunity for South Alabama to at least create some uncomfortable moments.
Oh my god, jumping out into that madness. Aratoshi managed to pick off 2, but Tiny T will come in with the trade. The rest of the crew are looking to rush it down. RC manages to pick up another duo. It's Tiny T, last one alive with the MP9, but they will collide and ultimately collapse on him, only to lose a singular SMG on the side of Colorado.
We'll see that choice from the USA side to come in, go into that third round by really starting out heavy with, AK's full utility, and we see that singular creed on Crispy. So this could be the start of, some of these battles that we've seen them like to take on this map. This is their choice, so we'll see if they're able to capitalize on the fact that right now they're just, slightly outgunning the Colorado side.
Does seem to be another move over onto the Tiny T next spot. Pulling it down by the staircase, not making any serious commitments just yet. A lot of utility at the ready if they want to start to create some havoc. Not a full commitment because we got Cozy over here. It's just waiting for anyone to try and pop their head in. Crispy on that side, looking to make a way. Ramp just keeping that lurk at the ready to keep the options. USA open, and he will find DB Cozy first. RC on the other side of the map takes down Soju, and they're holding on to the site as well as they can. The flash over Jig Jester will create a little bit of space, but Tiny T with a second one of the round allows South Alabama start moving up. This is a slow, methodical push, and they're starting to get crazy now, sending out the utility, taking site control. Nobody's going to stop the plant now, but Jig Jester's on the other side. He might be able to get something to happen. RC coming around the corner. He manages to catch Lepizio off guard, and that is going to alert the rest of the crew where they are being attacked from. It's a 2-pronged attack. We see Pelusia trying to make their way onto site from CT, and now the BRC coming up the staircase, finds one. Crispy there for the trade. Last player, Lucia, is going to hold on to their life and save that SMG?
Yeah, well, MP9's high rate of fire, lots of damage. There's some potential there. And as you're looking at the money on the CT side, I mean, I guess anything that they can save at this point is a benefit, because going to this next round, they're probably going to save here just so they can get a better buyout as we look at round 5. But that was a great execution round from South Alabama. It was a little costly. They did lose 3 out of their 5 players, but I really like the fact that, they were able to answer Colorado's flank aggression with some good crossfire and cross-aim, crosshair placement, and ultimately making sure that, they weren't letting this get away from them too quickly.
Looking for a similar move. They do have good default going. Multiple players in different angles. Just making sure that Colorado can't be too sure. Sending the flash out to take anyone down by sandbags, make them think twice. Now RC backing up away from. Might hang out by CT. Oh, Pelusia on the boost. finds Crispy on those ramps. It's not going to look too good if they want to continue down that avenue as Tiny T goes down by the staircase as well. Turning from a 5v5 into a 5v3 in a matter of seconds. We do have one player hanging out, making their way through team main. Might be able to get a good angle if they manage to get the timing right onto RC, but RC is holding that steadfast. It's going to send out a smoke just for good measure.
I appreciate the pace from South Alabama. You're able to, slow things down, look for some of these picks. They know obviously that there's an MP9 out on the field, so they can identify that and move it around. And without a lot of additional utility on the side of the CTs, there is an opportunity for them to take this. But certainly, the way that we've seen those early battles go, and it's certainly not going to be an easy take no matter where they go.
Ooh, Soju with that response against the player on drop. They will hold it for now as Xboth, one of the two players remaining, does manage to have themselves on the site, but there is no bombs to be found. RC coming through, finds one, and finds a second. Ensure fourth round going over to Colorado.
Excellent round by RC there, just to close out at the end. Not missing shots and really making sure that they weren't they weren't struggling against that two-pronged threat. I really, South Alabama looked like they were, on the verge of taking back that, unfortunate situation. Unfortunately, not being able to close it out. And Colorado was again starting to dominate some of this pace and really show why they're so close to the top of the board.
RC with a crazy aggressive flash finds two, and now Jig Jester looking to get aggressive on their own. Manages to put out some damage with the nade and moves around to find Tiny T. Xboth still hanging out there. Will be Lepizio swapping for that Deagle. Hoping to manage a nice one tap, nice 1D to just take a piece of weaponry out of the hands of Colorado, but it doesn't seem to be the case, at least for now.
Unfortunately, just look in the wrong direction. And when you're getting into that mid scenario, especially, there's 5 or 6 angles that you need to be aware of, and it's a tough ask, especially when you're playing against a team who's obviously been really hot and just in a great position overall. But now that we're coming into round 6, we're gonna see some of those rifles coming back onto the T side. Going to give them a chance to kind of learn from the last couple of rounds where they, started to understand where the other players were positioned and hopefully see some of that aggression. I did think that maybe the A site might be their best bet, but it seems like they're, continuing to follow this strategy of let's test both. Let's see if we can get some of these early picks. And Lucia, losing quite a bit of health to that Molly, is ultimately going to go down to Lepizio, and we're in a 3v4 situation now.
Ooh, Jig Jester. A little too much aggression leads to their own demise. Now it's an opportunity for South Alabama to make their move over on to site. See if they can actually manage something aggressive here, moving toward B. Don't know if that will be the case. Soju manages to cover that bomb. And they're still going to play this super slow. Xboth, though, does want to make a commitment, does want to find Aratoshi on a unfortunate angle and bring themselves some sort of success, but we have Soju coming through as well to support.
And you see RC just kind of feeling out the fact that, we don't get a lot of information off of the A site, although they didn't have anybody there, but, Cozy's moving over to that side, trying to, go against it. But now that they've got this utility on the USA side still, they're able to come in and make it count.
Smokes are down. So is a Molly. RC backing up. Ensuring their positioning is good as nobody's looking toward the back of the site. RC and Aratoshi swinging in conjunction. Cut him down. That's another round for Colorado.
The patience from both Aratoshi and RC there is just absolutely deadly. They're not giving USA any open battles. They're not taking any unnecessary risks so far, and that's very clearly one of the big factors as to why they're currently 5-1 in the game.
Real aggression out from Colorado, but it's almost like a subtle aggression, but finally, it's Lepizio and crew. They're making their way up ramping in a matter of seconds. They have taken side control, and RC caught with their pants down, lining something up. Do have some rifles around Lepizio trying to make magic and lightning strike thrice. It will not happen. A major nade to put on some damage on the plant, but they are still going to hold on to their lives. It's your crispy next buff. Keep
the fade kill
coming.
Whoa. He's just going for that full court fade there and just, picking off people with the Tech 9 as he goes. This has been an excellent round for South Alabama. Minimal investment overall. They're coming away with rifles. And, like you said, they just managed to catch some people with grenades in their hands and ultimately took some great early kills to ultimately get that bomb down. So I think, obviously you can't count on that every round, because as you get more aggressive, they're going to kind of understand that that's where you're going with it. But that change of pace really made a difference there, and shows that, while Colorado obviously has the advantage so far, it's not always going to be the case.
And here it comes even more, some more aggression. Tiny T with the assist of Xbox Flash pulls up and takes out Jig Jester. We still have plenty of players, plenty of manpower to hold down B, but it does make it that much easier as the utility continues to rain down onto the site.
Lots of opportunity for South Alabama here to not fully commit to a site and really just, try to take advantage of the fact that they've got their first pick. They've kind of caught Colorado off of site, which is going to give them potentially the opportunity to plant kind of early. But those mollies coming in, that counter utility that Colorado has been able to save to the mid round, is going to make a big difference in how they continue to kind of play through this. And we'll see if I would expect to see some flanks coming from the ramp potentially, but it seems like for the most part, Colorado is choosing to just kind of go the traditional approach, full frontal.
There was an attempted flank out there, but it did not work out. I believe Soju and now Eratoshi's leading the charge to try and retake this site. It's going to be Crispy sending out a Hail Mary of a flash, and it does manage to catch somebody, but it will also catch Tiny T, put them at a disadvantage, allowing OP Cozy or DB Cozy, not a hard time figuring out what that is, but Cozy to come through, pick up a few frags, and it was a great retake. But also I want to shout out Alabama for having a great, feint onto B site, but not that utility, making them second guess what is going on here. So we're seeing this squad improve over the season for sure.
Yeah, well, I think to your point, like, they've got a lot of great fights in them, right? We've seen in previous weeks, especially players like Soju, Tiny T, and Lepizio, just creating these really great moments of individual brilliance that has really helped their team in the moments where they're able to find that success. But unfortunately, they just haven't been able to quite string all of those together to see that reflected in their map wins. So this certainly would be the story of the season so far if they're able to take a map off of Colorado, just based on the paper statistics here. And they're certainly putting the pieces together to make that possible.
Great kill by Lepizio to open up team main to get this party started. Drop and boost are going to be smoked off, and now they have the opportunity, if they want to collapse onto B side, if they choose to do it. But I don't know. The Crispy's alert onto DB Cozy make things that much sweeter, but that wasn't too sweet of a molly. Oh no! Whoa, that could have been horrendous if Soju got that team fire onto his buddy Lepizio and caused another unnecessary death, but still holding on. Xboth with a great one tap onto Pelusia, and out of nowhere, it just seemed like South Alabama was picking apart the pieces of Colorado and walked onto site.
I think that's exactly what they need to be doing, right? They're playing really patiently across, the rounds where they're not committed to that aggression. And when they are committed to that aggression, we're seeing some of that success in those early rounds. Their struggles have come with, Colorado having a lot of counter utility left for those retakes, which has just created some problems that they haven't been able to contend with yet. But when Alabama is playing a more conservative game, they're, for the most part, Colorado has been very patient, but in that round, they just let themselves get caught out a little bit. They give up some relatively easy kills to the USA side. In South Alabama, not a team to squander those opportunities coming through with their third round. And in this round, still lots of danger from the Colorado front with some Deagles and 5.7s out there. But this could be a great way to put them at 6-4 and in a position to finish out the half.
Perfect opportunity strike, but Aratoshi is going to strike as well onto Xboth, and these Deagles are finding heads. However, finding angles on the side of South Alabama as the site will be given control over to South Alabama. Now, it's just up to Pelusia. I do believe there is a potential for a retake if they manage to turn this into a 1v1, which they have as Soju has fallen while looking away. They do take a look at Lepizio, and just like that, Colorado keeps themselves in the round, in the game, going on for their 7th round win.
If I'm USA, the immediate thing that I'm doing is, we have these few seconds between rounds, is to talk through the players about their post-plant positioning, because what we saw there is just players being out in the open, being very easily caught out by Pelusia with nothing but a deagle. And, well, the deagle obviously is the gun that it is. That should never have been a situation where that early into the bomb timer, they were taking those one-on-one fights or getting caught out in the way that they were. So this is, I think, the crucial difference that we've been kind of alluding to here, right? Where, in that round, they did pretty much everything right. They, got the utility down, they got those early kills, but they just couldn't close it out. And so that's going to be a huge danger, because what should have been a 6-4 round is now 7-3.
It's definitely an unfortunate end in terms of South Alabama's aggression there, or lack thereof. Just a good utilization of time, space, and utility. It's a big improvement from what we've seen, at least from what I have seen on week 1 of this league, where on Inferno, they would make their way up into Banana and just had nowhere to go. Didn't have a real idea of how to take the site, and that is not how you want to take the site, Tiny T. An unfortunate move. Jig Jester will open this one up with a headshot onto their opponent, sending out a nade with a little bit of damage, but XBoth is not going to take too much off of that one, as the rest of the crew start to expand their wide berth across this map. JaCrispy does land a frag over onto A site. Will be traded out, though. The attention is there. The flank and the movement is there, as they're actually going to make their way off over to A. Mollies prevent them from getting that early plant, but they're going to send some back of their own. This is definitely a tough, winnable situation. Their calling card on the side of Colorado is to throw a nade while the plant is in possession. X-Up holds onto their life. EB Cozy out from Tetris, finds Soju, but there's one player behind Sandbags. I don't think they noticed me, but the flick from Cozy is huge. Lapizio goes down. It's all up to XBoth to hold this one down, and they're on the other side of Scaffold. They know exactly where XBoth is. Eritoshi close this one down. Another round over to Colorado.
And another just really tough example of that post-plant challenge that USA is having here. I mean, that was a little bit different because, they came into it with a much more balanced 3v3 situation that they had to contend with. But there's no reason that, sort of based on where they were, that they should have been caught out there. And I think, unfortunately, it came down to the lynchpinch of Soju there as he came out from the far side there, just trying to clear out angles, make sure that Colorado's not hiding somewhere on site. But unfortunately, he wasn't paying attention to the CT positions, and unfortunately just kind of lost everything. But he's making up for it by taking out RC early in this round.
Good openers by South Alabama at this moment. They can go wherever they want. Just one player holding down on B sites. Jig Jester, known B holder, sending out that nade. Gonna let him know, not exactly where. The utility is gonna leave a breadcrumb trail for them to follow. Jig Jester, however, can hide his scent, but not for too long, as Tiny T picks up the trade. Pelusi over on A side will manage to pick up an AK after winning their battle. But Soju, moving through mid, gets on to drop and holds it down. Site control going over to South Alabama.
This is almost a mirror image of what we saw with Pelucio only on a deagle a few rounds ago, except for one extra player on the side of USA. So hopefully they've learned their lesson at this point. Pelucio's already on site and already taking out the first one. Whew, thank goodness for Tiny T.
Lesson learned, make sure you can trade.
Yeah, never give up those angles without somebody ready to refrag, am I right? Colorado just doing such a great job across the board for so many of these rounds. They're in these kind of scary positions, but to their credit, every player that has been left over in these clutch positions is a huge threat, right? We're never sitting here thinking like, oh, this round is over, because whether it's a Pelusia, an Eritoshi, or an RC, who have been some of the higher impact players that we've seen so far, they're dangerous. And we've seen that a little bit from Eritoshi there, taking out Tiny T, your boy.
That's a star in South Alabama, the Southern Lights. Oh, let's see if they can hold it down somehow. DB Cozy isn't able to take out at least one Lapizio on death's door. However, one shot will be all it takes if they can manage to land it onto him, but they can't. Actually, they do. RC only brings him down a little bit.
They know Pelusio's on site.
Pelusio's on site.
Oh, no.
He still commits to the plane, but his teammates got him. They're safe. Oh my God, Crispy with the hero play.
Wow, I did not expect that to play out the way that it did. Goodness, I really didn't. I thought we would be seeing a lot dangerous moment there over the boxes, but props to South Alabama for keeping it together and making sure that they're covering their homies.
Look right in the face of death and say, "You can kill me, but we're getting this plant money."
That was a pretty wild round from USA there. Just by whether it's their own merits or just the lucks of how bullet sprays work, able to come away like you mentioned, DB Cozy's situation over there on the scaffolding, just not going their direction and coming out with some really miraculous survival plays to put them up on a much higher body count as they get onto site.
Flash going out. No flash over onto B. Our players waiting Saratoshi by drop. And for anyone else coming from mid, it will be Lepizio if he decides to make that commitment. We do have Xboth on site by the staircase. And expand their control, and they get a little bit further. RC in the back. The smoke's going to clear him off. They do have the information he is there. With their back turned to the enemy, Lepizio will fall. Now this 2v2 retake is in effect. The molly goes down. A lot of damage on the Pelusia. Headshot takes him out. And now it's just up to RC. Finally, have a better psych retake positioning. Potentially, maybe not. RC coming around and finds the second onto Crispy. Oh, this is a continual issue that South Alabama is facing. The retake scenario is always one that they're going to lose.
That is a tough loss, especially as we're getting to the end of this half. And on the T side here, you're trying to get as many rounds as you possibly can in preparation for what hopefully is a little bit more comfortable with CT. We say that a lot, but generally, when you're playing in a position, although this map is a little bit more chaotic with all the rotations and flank positions and so on, but it really matters that they get as many as they can. So Colorado goes up 10-5 here. Obviously, it's not like a panic position for South Alabama, but they certainly would prefer to be 9-6 as opposed to 10-5.
Well, they would certainly like to be, I believe, 7-7. After that one Deagle retake that we saw earlier in this map. That was just so unfortunate. I believe it was Lucia picked up 2 and removed a very winnable round from the clutches of South Alabama, and they don't want to have to face that again. It will be Soju hanging out by 2 name, but Tiny T is going to get taken out with the swag 7. DB Cozy feeling good after that frag, I'm sure.
Tiny T is doing some work as the entry fragger there, but unfortunately that time he's not doing a 1-for-1 trade. He just, got taken, his head gets taken off by the swag 7. And unfortunately for USA, this time around, all those survivabilities are going in the favor of Colorado. Seeing Aratoshi go down to 60 in health in a situation where he definitely should have lost his life is not what Alabama's hoping for here.
Definite morale killer. I believe this is the first sighting of the Apapizio. Shows he should have brought it out earlier. And finds a second. All by the lonesome. I'm sure they're not going to plant the bomb just yet. Aratoshi moving in from CT. We'll have some help from drop. We're waiting on that player to push up. And he's actually going to spot out Aratoshi first. Jumping down. We have to do a guessing game. Which way is he going to move? RC hasn't managed to get him just yet. They're playing Ring of the Rosie. And they win it off. Colorado coming out of the first half 10-5. That could have been dangerous, Viking.
It could have, and I think the biggest takeaway from this half is Colorado is not impervious to threats. And South Alabama, well, we've talked at length about some of the challenges that they've had in those post-plant positions, have showed that they can go toe-to-toe from certain rounds with Colorado and their ability to hit those shots. So I think as we look into this round, or this half, excuse me, we'll expect to see some good aggression out of Colorado, trying to really set the pace for where they're at, and South Alabama is just trying to make sure that they can hold those positions and hold on to those kills.
Ooh, Lucia gonna open it up against Tiny T. Soju responding, as well as Xboth coming out. turning this into a difficult defense. They're taking a lot of damage through that smoke. It's going to be Lepizio, though, firing away. Jester all alone is going to be DB, Cozy, and RC, but I don't think they need too much help as Lepizio actually going to remove his teammate from the equation as DB Cozy looks to close it out just by themselves.
Cozy in the burst. Yeah. Tough round for South Alabama on the CT side, trying to make a statement and trying to just pull as many rounds as they can back to their side in the second half. So not the end of the world. There's still rounds to play, but as I've mentioned before, once one team gets to that 12th or 13th round, you get some really difficult financial situations where you don't have the luxury of being able to save quite as much. So here they're going to try to do as much damage as they can. Lepizio with his second team kill of the day, able to make up that a little bit with Pelucio, but Jig Jester here really making it an uncomfortable position to try to save that weapon.
Yeah, oh man, come on. Come on, Lepizio. If you're going to shoot somebody, shoot the enemy.
Yeah, that's their IGL really coming through their team.
Maybe they're not listening
Doing their
to
best.
him. And like, hey, I'll make you listen.
Yes, the tough love strategy for sure.
Some corporal punishment. But hey, let's see if it came through and is actually going to work out as we see a real defense set up here for South Alabama. We have Tiny T holding it down on B strictly by themselves. We do have players hanging out by mid, but not much of a commitment just yet. 3 players hanging out by the staircase. One on ramps is DB Cozy. Does win that first engagement. Walks out with 5 HP. That does not feel good if you're on the side of South Alabama. Another player who gets away by the skin of their teeth responds with a nade, and Tiny T eats it.
And unfortunately, every time they don't close out one of those kills, it's just another person and another gun that's going to be a constant threat. There's no doubt in my mind that Uratoshi can do an insane amount of damage, whether it's 1 HP or 100 HP. And we're seeing that with RC there a little bit and Pelucia. So the good news is for South Alabama, there is a very low player, but there are 3 of them there too.
There's that low player taken out. Now they have 2 healthy attackers to deal with, 2 healthy Ts. Jig Jester is waiting for anyone to try and think they're in a safe position, think that things are under their control. Soju is questioning it, questioning whether or not to go around that corner. Will the Xbox dropping down into Tetris? Looking the wrong way. RC finds the first one. Won't be able to get a second as Jig Jester rounds the corner and helps out their squad to close out 13th round. Just 3 more rounds until Colorado takes out this first map, Viking.
That was some chess master level moves from Colorado there with Jig Jester just holding in that scaffolding area, just, you know, waiting for RC to get that very, very slow flanked around. And while Xbox definitely kind of sussed out the fact that something was happening, unfortunately, he was just looking at the wrong entrance at the wrong time. And ultimately, that just, you know, ended in a round loss. And here, Colorado changing up the pace, going directly on his site, getting those initial kills and making it probably a very quick cleanup round for Colorado.
Yeah, not much that South Alabama can do at this point. You know, it's just the clap.
Oh. Rip.
Oh, I just had to stop. Do a full stop during that one. They got...
Is it hubris or is it fun? It's hard to say.
They got money.
Yeah, not in a huge bind there. Jig Jester will probably buy over to his boy just to keep that money a little bit more balanced. They probably weren't anticipating losing one of their players to gravity so much as the South Alabama players, but just Crispy is gonna get away with his life there, it looks like, trying to find one of those kills. And are they coming together? Not quite.
Got our observer on that one. Okay, so we're back in a real round here for South Alabama. I mean, I don't think we're going to see that crazy aggression. I think that would be reserved for, you know, rounds that are much more easily available for victory. One where you're not going to have too much resistance. One where you're not going to have your Crispy coming out like a madman with that aggression. This is going to be the first hit Colorado will take. Does look to be a B hit if they are continuing with this take. Oh no, Pelusia moved, or Aratoshi moved at the worst moment, being flashed by their own teammates. Soju there to pick up the pieces. Xboth hanging out in window, waiting for that. Jake Gesture gets the damage in. It's a little bit of tags, but nothing to worry about there. Pelusia, last one there, hanging out in the catacombs by themselves, trying to be sneaky, trying to keep themselves alive, but they will do no such thing.
It was a dream round on the side of University of South Alabama, able to get those early picks, make sure that the aggression, or the patient aggression, we'll say, from Colorado was punished at every turn, and managing not to lose a single person on their side. So if they can keep up that kind of mental momentum and just, feel confident in what they're doing, it's entirely possible that we could see a couple more go their way before this is all over.
Okay, now we're getting real crazy aggressive on the side of Colorado. They're rushing up ramp and going to take sight. Xboth will stop them in their tracks, or at least will try to. This is RC running and gunning and tearing up South Alabama as they try to hold on to some sort of defense, but none of them seem to be putting up a formidable defense. It's all up to Tiny T, a man I've once crowned the Clutch King. I don't know if they will be able to retain their title this round, but it seems to be leaning in that direction. Ensign goes out, blocks off RC from coming in to make that connection, going in for the defusal. You don't have a kit, Tiny.
It was a good try. Unfortunately, with the amount of money he had, you would have expected that kit, but it was an admirable attempt at trying to bring that back. And I feel like Colorado just heard us talking about, how that lack of aggression was kind of creating a punishing situation, and immediately answered that with an incredibly aggressive move towards that A site, and just making sure that South Alabama had no disillusion of who was in charge here.
Going for it again, running up onto ramps. One will be found and trying to get the spray down. Lepizio finds two, and that's actually huge. He goes down for his efforts, but it will be okay. Spot is there to try and hold up and pick up the pieces. Molly will be quenched, and so will the life of DB Cozy. Pelusia, last man standing, but there was going to be a player clutch this one out. I mean, it would be, 4 players on the side of Colorado. They're all doing really well at this point, but Pelusia still not out of the woods, or really in hope's end at this point. Insan's gonna keep him away from the bomb, and coming around the corner, it's Soju. And that just made this a little more doable. Tiny T really tagged up, and Xboth hanging back, actually just waiting for a potential trade, a potential angle if they decide to make their way up ahead. But sight for now should be considered secure. Flash going out, and no way, Lucy actually kills Tiny T. If they ground this corner and get the kill, Pelusia got the kill and won the map. Colorado out of nowhere. Pelusia wins the 1v3 and gives them the first map. Oh my God, Viking. I didn't think it could happen. I didn't think it was possible, but Colorado clutches that seemingly impossible roundup.
I guess the lesson there is Pelusia is perhaps gunning for Tiny T's title in your mind, at least, and making 2 excellent clutch 2K victories there. One's on the CT side, one's on the T side.